On the morning of April 22, 2026, a name that once dominated headlines across British Columbia quietly re-emerged into the public sphere. Jamie Bacon, the man long described by police and prosecutors as the architect behind one of Canada's most notorious mass killings, was released from custody, his sentence complete, his future once again unfolding beyond prison walls. It is a development that lands with weight, not only because of who Bacon is, but because of what his name represents. The Surrey Six killings remain one of the most shocking acts of gang violence in Canadian history, a crime that blurred the line between targeted execution and indiscriminate slaughter, leaving behind a trail of grief that has never fully settled. In 2007, inside a high-rise condominium in Surrey, British Columbia, 6 men were gunned down in what investigators would later describe as a calculated act of violence tied to the drug trade. The intended targets were rival gang members, men police said were connected to a competing network. But the reality inside that apartment told a far more disturbing story. 2 of those killed had no connection to organized crime at all. They were simply there. 22-year-old Christopher Mohan had stepped into the hallway of his own home. 55-year-old Ed Schellenberg was a tradesman, a maintenance worker carrying out routine work. Both were killed because, according to evidence later presented in court, the gunman had been given explicit instructions: leave no witnesses behind. Years later, that directive would become central to the prosecution's case. In court, Bacon admitted to conspiracy to murder one of the intended targets, Corey Lau, a rival figure in Surrey's drug scene. The Crown argued that the Red Scorpions used violence as a business tool, intimidation, coercion, and ultimately execution, to seize control of drug lines across the region. In September 2020, Bacon pleaded guilty. The court sentenced him to 18 years for conspiracy to commit murder, alongside an additional 10-year sentence for counseling to commit murder in a separate 2008 shooting. However, with credit for time already served while awaiting trial, the practical outcome was far shorter. His remaining sentence amounted to just over 5.5 years behind bars. Now, less than 6 years after that plea, Bacon is no longer in federal custody. Authorities confirm that he has been released under a provincial peace bond and is currently living in Edmonton, subject to strict conditions, including a curfew. Law enforcement agencies, including British Columbia's Combined Forces Special Enforcement Unit, say they remain in close contact with federal corrections officials to monitor his movements. The Correctional Service of Canada maintains that this outcome is centered on gradual release and supervised reintegration. In official statements, the agency emphasized that when offenders nearing the end of their sentences are believed to pose a continued risk, authorities work alongside police to ensure both public awareness and ongoing oversight. But for the families of the victims, those assurances do little to soften the reality of Bacon's release. Bacon's release raises questions that extend beyond a single case, about the limits of the justice system, about rehabilitation, and about how communities reconcile with violence that once defined them.